Trae Young was never handed anything. Born in 1998 to Rayford Young, a standout guard at Texas Tech, Trae grew up in Norman, Oklahoma. His father's basketball journey may have ended early, but for Trae, it was just the beginning. Raised in a basketball household, he spent his childhood studying the game, idolizing point guards like Chris Paul and Steve Nash, and watching Kevin Durant light up Oklahoma City. Even from a young age, it was clear he loved the game. But there was always one problem: his size. In high school, he stood just 5 feet 1 inch. Coaches overlooked him, scouts doubted him, and opponents underestimated him. But that became fuel. He carried a chip on his shoulder that never left, a fire that pushed him to dominate every practice, every game, every opponent in his path. That drive earned him an early scholarship offer from his hometown team, the University of Oklahoma, when he was only 15. Coach Lon Kruger knew he was special. By his junior year, the national spotlight started to find him. He was invited to an elite Nike camp in the Bahamas, facing future NBA stars like Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, and Malik Monk. But it didn't go well. He struggled to get past defenders. His confidence was shaken. It was a wake-up call. But instead of giving up, Trae went back to work. That summer, he reinvented himself, sharpened his handles, worked on his court vision, and transformed from a shooting guard into a true floor general. His senior season? 42 points per game. Dominant. He led Team USA's U18 squad to a gold medal, proving he belonged on the biggest stages. But even then, scouts weren't sold. They said he was too small, too weak, a defensive liability. But Trae didn't care. He committed to Oklahoma, the school where he once served as a ball boy, determined to prove everyone wrong. And when the college season started, that's exactly what he did. By the time Trae Young suited up for the University of Oklahoma, the buzz was undeniable. He wasn't just a hometown kid living out a dream. He was electrifying. Deep threes, flashy passes, a confidence far beyond his age. The comparisons came fast. Steph Curry, the best freshman point guard since Magic Johnson. Even Bill Simmons, known for hating college hoops, called Trae the best freshman guard he'd ever seen. Trae had the entire country tuning into Oklahoma games. The Sooners started the season 12-1. Trae was putting up absurd numbers, scoring from anywhere, leading the nation in points and assists, making highlight plays every night. He wasn't just good. He was must-see TV. But the rise was too fast, too loud, and soon the hate came crashing in. After a shocking loss to unranked Kansas State, Oklahoma began spiraling. They lost 13 of their last 19 games, and suddenly, all the praise turned into blame. Fans and media flipped. Instead of calling him brilliant, they said he was selfish. Instead of a young leader, they said he was overrated. But Trae didn't run from it. In interviews, he took ownership. No excuses. Just a promise to get better. Despite the team's collapse, Trae made history. He became the first player in NCAA history to lead the nation in both scoring and assists in the same season. Think about that. No one had ever done it before. Not Magic. Not Steph. Not anyone. But when Trae declared for the NBA draft, the skepticism only got louder. Analysts like Max Kellerman said he wasn't ready. Skip Bayless claimed he'd never be a star. Too small. Too weak. He'll get pushed around, they said. He'll be out of the league in 5 years. It sounded familiar. Same doubts, just a bigger stage. Then came the 2018 NBA draft, the moment that would define his career for years to come. The Atlanta Hawks had the 3rd pick and selected Luka Doncic. But just minutes later, a trade was announced. The Hawks sent Luka to the Mavericks in exchange for the 5th pick, Trae Young, and a future first-rounder. From that moment on, Trae wasn't just a lottery pick. He was the guy traded for Luka. And whether it was fair or not, the comparisons were inevitable. Luka was taller, stronger, more polished. And as soon as Luka began dominating in Dallas, people weren't just rooting against Trae. They were actively rooting for him to fail. The pressure was unlike anything most rookies face. Every shot, every turnover, every win or loss was judged against a player 500 miles away. And for the first few months, it looked like the critics might be right. Trae struggled in the summer league. His first few NBA games were rough. Bad shooting nights, high turnovers, defensive lapses. Headlines labeled him a bust. Even Bill Simmons, once his biggest fan, said he had major bust potential and predicted he might be out of the league in 6 years. But Trae wasn't panicking. He was adjusting. Trae Young's rookie season didn't start great. Critics were loud, the Luka comparisons were constant, and his early numbers didn't help. He shot just 35% from the field, averaged 4 turnovers per game, and was often a defensive liability. Fans labeled him a bust before the season was even halfway done. But something changed in January of 2019. In a regular season game against the Portland Trail Blazers, Trae suddenly looked like a completely different player. He dropped 30 points, shot 73% from the field, and controlled the pace from start to finish. It was a turning point, a quiet announcement that he wasn't going anywhere. By the end of the season, his shooting had climbed to 47%, and he earned Rookie of the Month honors in February. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting, right behind Luka Doncic. Year 2? Even better. Trae became an all-star starter after racking up nearly 3 million fan votes. His averages, 29.6 points and 9.3 assists per game, were elite. The critics had to pause. The league had to take notice. But just when it seemed like he was finally being accepted, the disrespect returned. In 2020, despite representing Team USA at the U18 level and leading the NBA in assists, Trae wasn't even invited to the 44-man Olympic training camp. No explanation. No invite. It stung. Then came the 2021 season. The All-Star game was in Atlanta, his city, his moment. But he didn't make the starter list. Worse, the coaches didn't select him as a reserve either. When asked how he felt, Trae didn't vent. He just shrugged, said he was confused, and went back to work. That hunger showed in the playoffs. The Hawks finished as the 5th seed and were matched against the New York Knicks in round 1. It was Trae's playoff debut, and it happened in the loudest, rowdiest arena in the NBA, Madison Square Garden. Game 1. Final possession.
Tie game.
10 seconds left. Trae had the ball. He dribbled calmly, then attacked. He slipped past Frank Ntilikina and floated a shot over Julius Randle. Bucket.
Hawks win.
Then, Trae turned to the roaring New York crowd and whispered, "It's quiet as F*** in here." Asterisk. That moment made him a villain. And he loved it. New York turned on him fast. The boos were relentless. The chants were personal. One entire section mocked his thinning hair. Even the mayor of New York interrupted a press conference to tell Trae to play the game the right way. All because Trae had mastered something many players hated, drawing fouls by putting defenders in tough positions. He'd stop on a dime, feel contact, and get to the line. Steve Nash famously yelled at the refs, "That's not basketball." But Trae wasn't cheating. He was adapting. He was playing smart. And through all the noise, he kept hooping. The Hawks beat the Knicks in 5 games. In the clincher, Trae hit a dagger 3, bowed to the crowd, and walked off the court like a Broadway star taking his final curtain call. That bow, that moment, turned him into a national headline. From there, the Hawks kept rolling. They knocked off the top-seeded 76ers in the second round, with Trae dropping 39 in Game 5 and 21 in the fourth quarter of Game 7. For the first time in his career, he was on the biggest stage, the Eastern Conference Finals. And though they eventually lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, Trae had arrived. No more questions about his size. No more doubts about his leadership. He had taken a rebuilding Hawks team all the way to the conference finals, not as a sidekick, but as the centerpiece. He was no longer just a rising star. He was a superstar, and the villain the league didn't know it needed. After reaching the Eastern Conference Finals, it seemed like Trae Young had finally earned his respect. He was an All-NBA selection, led the entire league in total points and total assists in 2022, a feat only one other player, Nate "Tiny" Archibald, had ever accomplished. But still, the recognition didn't come the way it should have. In 2023, Trae averaged 27 points and 10 assists before the All-Star break, elite numbers. Yet again, he was left off the All-Star roster by coaches. In an anonymous NBA player poll by The Athletic, he was even voted the most overrated player in the league. No explanation, just disrespect. This was nothing new. Instead of folding under the weight of that hate, Trae kept going. He stayed laser-focused. Even when his Atlanta Hawks struggled, finishing with a near .500 record, and even when his second coach, Nate McMillan, was fired, just like Lloyd Pierce before him, people didn't see the context. They labeled him a coach killer, ignoring the details. McMillan had been a stabilizer early on, but eventually clashed with Trae over control and injuries. One disagreement, over whether Trae would attend shoot-around while rehabbing his shoulder, led to tensions so high that McMillan told him not to come if he wouldn't start. Trae, fed up, sat out the game. It wasn't ego. It was a difference in vision between an old-school coach and a young superstar trying to win. Yet the media kept the same narrative alive, that Trae was hard to coach, that he couldn't lead. But behind the scenes, he was doing exactly that. Even after another underwhelming regular season, Trae led the Hawks to a playoff berth. Down 3-1 against Boston in 2023, with just seconds left in Game 5, he pulled up from the logo, over Jaylen Brown, and drained it to keep Atlanta alive. It was cold, fearless, and exactly who Trae has always been. Still, the All-Star snubs continued. And so did the Team USA rejection. In 2023, despite his numbers and past international success, he was again left off the FIBA World Cup roster. No training camp invite. Nothing. Players like Gilbert Arenas called it what it was: embarrassing. Not because Trae needed a handout, but because he never even got the chance to prove himself. "Let me show you I can adapt," Arenas said. "Don't judge me for how I play on my team." Even with all the disrespect, Trae never lashed out. He kept working. And in 2024, he was once again overlooked for the All-Star game. Only this time, when injuries opened up a spot, he accepted the invitation, making him a 3-time All-Star and a symbol of quiet perseverance. Finally, he was named to the 41-man training camp roster for the 2024 Paris Olympics. It wasn't the final team yet, but for the first time in years, the door was open. All he had ever wanted was a shot. But by now, Trae's perspective had shifted. Basketball still meant everything, but fatherhood gave him new clarity. After the birth of his son, he said he focused less on the noise and more on doing the right thing, not just for his game but for his family. The flashy plays, the bow in MSG, the logo threes, they're part of the show. But who he is behind the scenes is far different from the villain fans think they see. In his hometown of Norman, Oklahoma, Trae and his family opened the Young Family Athletic Center, a space for young athletes to grow, train, and dream, just like he once did. It's proof of who he really is: a leader, a mentor, and someone who never forgot where he came from. The media often paints Trae as arrogant, selfish, or hard to work with. But look at the facts. Look at the history. He's faced criticism at every level, and every time, he's responded with results. He's carried his team, made history, taken ownership, and kept pushing. Trae Young isn't a bust. He's not a villain. He's just misunderstood.